Decorating for the holidays can be very therapeutic, especially when you're busy, stressed, or have a bout of blues or existential dread, as we all do these days.
Nous ce n'est pas bon, pas nos échappa. Parfois, la porte du chat est fermée.
Hi, I'm Liv, and welcome to the Leopard Lodge. If you're new here, this is a channel dedicated to creative projects in the home. I've never been like a holidays person, really. I mean, maybe when I was like a little kid, but like as an adult, it's not really been a thing for me. And I never used to decorate for the holidays until last year during the pandemic, and it brought me a lot of much needed joy, honestly. So I guess I'm a holiday person now. But my issue is that a lot of decorations are made from plastic or other unsustainable materials. You use them once or twice, you throw them away, they go in the landfill, they take thousands of years to break down, we continue destroying the planet, yada yada yada. So I wanted to come up with some things that could be made from biodegradable or recycled materials. And well, the ideas started rolling in. Last year, I made a flower garland out of straw flowers that I found at the farmer's market in early fall. This is the straw flower garland that I made last year, and they are very much still intact and thriving. So I couldn't find straw flowers this year. Instead, I just found some flowers that I felt had a similar constitution. Try to find flowers that seem like they will hold their shape well. We have this very sad bouquet, but a lot of these flowers are still perfectly good. So I might try to incorporate some of them into the stringing as well. And what I did then was dry the flowers first and then string them up, which I think was actually a bit more difficult. So this year I'm going to try doing the stringing fresh and then we will let them dry. All you need is some kitchen string that's rather thin, a craft needle that has a big enough hole to get your string through, and a thimble couldn't hurt either. Ooh. Got it. So you just want to leave a little tail like this, and that way you'll be able to string along. You're going to have to decide on the length of your garland ahead of time. If you are not sure, give yourself a little bit of room to grow. You can't make it longer, but you can make it shorter. Tie a loop at the end that does not have the needle. That way you'll be able to hang it on here if you want. First off, you want to make sure that you've clipped the stem completely off. And then you can do this one of two ways. You can go through the center of the front of the flower and out the back and just kind of have them lined up like that. So when you hang them, it'll be a profile. Or what you can do is you can go through the stem on one side and out the other side and see the full front of the flower. Gently pull the flower to the end of the string. You basically just do this a bunch of times and leave as much space between each flower as you would like. When you reach the end, tie another loop to finish off the garland. Leave to dry in a cool place that doesn't get direct sunlight. Pro tip, if you don't want to do any of the drying stuff, you can actually buy straw flowers on Etsy and the work is done for you, and then you can string them up yourself. You can go that route if you'd like. I like to use these on the mantle or a table as decor, hang them on the wall, or even use them as dressing on the tree. But I couldn't find a tree that wasn't fake in time to shoot this episode, and a fake tree would have kind of defeated the whole point of this episode, wouldn't it have? So you'll just have to wait to see that. If you visit Japan in fall or winter, you might see this beautiful edible decor strung up all around. It's called hoshigaki. Hoshi means dried and kaki means persimmon. Forgive me if I am mispronouncing any of that. Of course, I'm not sure that it's really thought of as decor there, but I think it looks so beautiful that I'm kind of thinking of it that way. This is a centuries-old technique to dry persimmons into what I've been told is an incredible delicacy. It is usually done with the Hachiya varietal of persimmon, which is the heart-shaped one. It is too tannic to eat unless it is so ripe that it is basically melting, and then it is sweet like candy. If done correctly, the result will yield a delicious, sliceable, sugar crystallized dried fruit that has the quality of a membranous-like paste. I want to stress that I am not an expert at this. This is the first time that I have tried this, and I think discussing how to do this with someone from this culture would be the best way to learn. I simply wanted to document the process of this because someone gave me free persimmons from their tree, and I thought it was cool and beautiful, and I think that the world should know about it. You can, of course, purchase the finished product online for a pretty penny because this is a laborious process, a true slow food. It is time-consuming, involved, and I hear the results can be pretty precarious. Not for the faint of heart. Sadly, you cannot just peel the persimmons, string them up, and have them look beautiful for a few months. Sorry to break your heart. Mine is broken too. You must maintain good sunlight, airflow, humidity control, and eventually daily massaging. Yes, massaging. So here goes. We'll see what happens.
So far they seem to be drying out well, except for this one, which I think doesn't get enough sun, and it's got a little situation down here. These are now my children for however long this takes.
As previously mentioned, holiday foliage was not available yet during the making of this episode. But that's okay, because what better than a foraged wreath? And it's free! Now, I suppose I could have gone into the forest and found some things, but I decided to pull things from my own backyard. So I went foraging in the front and back of my house. Now, I totally understand that this is not an option for everyone. This concept is extremely new to me. I grabbed a bunch of olive branches and some cattails and had a couple of flowers from my garland left over to use as well. When foraging, just make sure you are being respectful of people's property and natural habitats, and don't get arrested, okay? I'm not gonna bail you out. You may remember that when I was making my yarn and wood wall hangings that I was contemplating what I should do with the outer part of my embroidery hoop. I had quite a few left over and hadn't come up with a project for it yet. So here we go. This is the first one. I started off by using small lengths of kitchen string to attach my branches to my hoop, making sure I was covering the whole thing really well. Then I would slide a branch into existing string on the other side and kind of weave the branches in and out of the hoop, or weave them in and out of each other to cover the string in other areas. It's kind of hard to explain, but I'm hoping that the visuals can help explain it for me. I would just use your best judgment, and remember that we still can use the cattails and the flowers to cover up more strength. To attach the cattails and the flowers, I wove the stems through the existing branches and pulled them to a place where I liked them. Hang up and enjoy coming home to a beautiful thing you made yourself every day. The great thing about making a non-holiday color specific wreath is that you can leave it all year round if you want to. These things will dry and the look of it will change, but not super drastically. I know that this project will not be new to most. Tons of content creators show this during the holidays. I'm not the only one. There's like a million of these videos. I didn't invent this. I'm not pretending like I invented it. The only thing that I do kind of differently is that most people just do orange slices. And I like to mix it up and use a variety of citrus for color variation. I like to get grapefruit, blood oranges, cara oranges, Meyer lemons, limes, and that way I have a variety of both colors and sizes. Using a serrated knife can make things a little bit easier, in my experience. You need to make sure that your citrus is very firm. You want to make your citrus slices as even as possible. You are not a robot, so it won't be perfect, but do your best. And if you accidentally cut one side too thick, you can totally even it out. Just lay it down and cut off a little bit. The thicker the slice, the harder to dry out. But if they're too thin, they'll burn in the oven. Aim for like 1/8 of an inch. If you have a mandolin where you can change the thickness settings and it's nice and sharp, you may want to use this. Place your cut slices on parchment-lined baking trays. The key to baking and not changing the color too much is going low and slow. I put my oven on its lowest setting, which is 170 degrees, and then I just kind of leave it to bake all day. But checking in on it occasionally is important. If you have a dehydrator, you should 100% use that. I kind of wish I had one, but where would I put it? At some point, you'll want to flip them all over. Moisture will have gotten trapped between the bottom of the citrus and the parchment paper, so flipping it over will allow that moisture to evaporate. And you may have to flip some of them several times. Because different things will dry at different rates, for instance, the limes seem to dry out the quickest because they're very small, you'll want to pull things off as they finish and leave the others to continue drying out. I like to check in about every hour or so. It's definitely an all-day project, but if you're doing other things around the house and you don't need to use your oven, why not? When everything is thoroughly dry, grab some thin kitchen string and a large craft needle and do basically exactly what we did with the flower garland, except this time we're weaving in and out of the citrus. You can kind of do this a number of ways, and I definitely encourage you to play with layering and spacing, and I mean, the world is your oyster, it's your garland. I like to let as little of the string show as possible, and I also like to control how pieces hang. So I will go through the back and then very close to it, back into the back, and then to the other side, and repeat that so that the citrus stays on the string on two ends and doesn't move around too much. And that way I can really control how it hangs. Of course, you could just string it in and out through the tops if you don't want to do this, and then it'll kind of sway and you won't have as much control, but some people like that. Explore, experiment, see what you like. You can use this garland on your mantle or your tree. The dried citrus can also be used in cocktails or mulled wine. And I even like to use it as part of my present wrapping, but you will just have to stay tuned for some of those things. And that concludes my biodegradable holiday decor, part 1. Part 2 to come, so long as those projects are not complete and utter disasters, which is always a possibility. And of course, I will show you my decorated tree with the garlands and the flowers completely dried. And I'll even give you an update on the hoshigaki. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss part 2. And with that, I will see you in the next one. Bye! I didn't say don't break any laws, just don't get arrested. I probably can't say that.